Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for the October energy update. I can't believe we're here already. Seems like time just keeps getting faster. I've always said that after Labor Day, the rest of the year just evaporates, and that feels like that's what's happening. So I hope you made it through eclipse season. September was really interesting, and given the information I brought through about that timeline shift, oh, okay. What? Okay, this isn't what I expected. All right, so they're going to start right in. They're talking about how if you listen to the last video when I was on vacation, the whole timeline shift rainbow thing, and if not, you might want to go back and listen to it. But I just heard the word readjusting. We're readjusting to this timeline shift that the collective has had. Now, remember, this does, well, at least everything that I've ever been told, and again, take what resonates, toss the rest aside, but stay open. Everything that I've ever received is that, this is a process that we're going through, and whenever we have something like, for example, a timeline shift happen, whether that be individual or collective, there's an adjustment period, right? So within each of us, we are making some shifts and changes in our own journey because of this collective timeline shift. So we talk a lot about shifts within the individual journey, but that all rolls up into the collective journey. So within the larger collective timeline shift, what they're showing, they just said dispersion. So when we talk about that, it doesn't mean everybody's like, now, right? We have a tendency to think that. But what actually is happening is in our own journeys, we're at different phases of that timeline shift over a period of time. But what's happened is the energy has been made available, and we are, this is interesting too. They're talking about how the initial waves of awakened people, I should say awakening because it's always happening, right? Are actually the ones helping open that door of that new timeline. So what they're showing is that timeline comes in, kind of like, hello, I'm here at the front door, kind of thing, makes itself known energetically, and then we reach toward it. Now, this isn't a conscious thing where you're like, okay, I got to go see this timeline and find it and feel it and all that. This is about the work you're doing in your own journey and being guided by your higher self. So, and we're always, I will just tell you this. I see this from my own life, okay? I look back, vast majority, I wasn't consciously aware of any of this or awake, all right? But things were still happening that were totally part of this journey. We're always led by our higher selves. We're just not consciously aware. And it can make it, well, I don't know if in some ways, more confusing journey, but also when we get to this point, it's also confusing. Right? Because it's that whole red pill, blue pill thing. You can't not see anymore, right? But we're always on that journey. So what they're talking about, this adjustment period as that collective timeline this is October, okay, right? As that new collective timeline showed up, we now start to find it or meet it, is what I keep getting. And it's always a gradual, and I always use up or down. I don't know, it's vibrational, right? But let's, for that purpose, moving up into that higher state, that higher timeline, because it's a higher timeline. It's not a lower timeline, collectively speaking, right? But everybody's in a different place. There are people living in a lower timeline, right? But the propensity of the people in the collective are moving in that direction. But we also get the weight of the world. In fact, I need to share that. The weight of the world was one of the words that came through. Is right now, I would bet you, and it'd be interesting to see what your comments are around this, and it may not necessarily be your own individual journey in how it's flowing, but the weight of the world, of the collective, was kind of hanging over you. And they showed Atlas with the world on his back. Was he a god? I don't know. Anyway, Atlas with the world on his back. This is what they showed me. This is how a lot of us feel right now. There's a heaviness of, and I don't want to say it's necessarily our individual journey. It's you feel the weight of the collective. So some ways that this can show up, and again, this is October because this is happening now from the the move from that, or the shift with the timeline being available for the collective. And so what's happening now too for some of us is we may feel that weight of the world that Atlas is carrying, your Atlas in the metaphor or analogy. It may feel like, I don't care. I can't care anymore. I'm too exhausted. I don't care. In a weird kind of I don't care way. It doesn't mean you don't care about others. This is real hard to describe until you feel it yourself. And I know others have had this, but it's also I'm getting it as a collective thing where we will go through this phase of like deep exhaustion that feels like on a collective level, a wanting to tear away from, a wanting to be away from people, wanting to just be alone, be on our own, more extreme than it's ever been. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to feel this extremeness, but I think there is, at least from what I'm getting, it's a gradual approach to this, and some of us are really feeling this now, okay? But the point of this then is why this is occurring right now is we're adjusting to this new timeline energy. So it's kind of like, this is the metaphor they're giving me. Like, when you go up into the mountains and say you're living at typically 500 feet elevation, and you go up into the Rocky Mountains all of a sudden, or like when I went to Ecuador and I went to Quito, flew into there, 14,000 feet elevation. I came from 500, not thinking, super sick in the next 3 or 4 days. Elevation. It was the elevation that, sickness from that, or altitude sickness, right? What they're talking about is we will have that, not necessarily sickness, but we will have this phase that we're going through where we're adjusting to that new timeline. That's really interesting. I haven't received this before. And we can feel, it's just a little bit, it's like Atlas with the world on his back. But I think Atlas looks like kind of like, hey, I'm doing this okay. We're kind of doing this kind of thing right now, a lot of us. Depending on where you're at in the journey, but I'm very much getting that this is kind of this October, like end of September, but it's definitely October, feeling the weight of the world. And I just want you to know a little bit of like, okay, I'm just going to give you some other things that are coming through that might feel like you're feeling, and just know it's natural. You don't want to do the journey any longer. I don't mean the life journey, but I mean, it could be that extreme, I suppose, but I'm not getting that. I'm getting, because we kind of understand this whole process when we've gotten more mature on it. Those of us who are newer at it and may not understand it, it may feel a little different. But what I keep getting is this idea of being able to embody this new energy. It's going to just take some time. We're going to feel that weight. We're going to feel that heaviness because there's a lot going on, right? And for those people, most of us are pretty empathic once we get to a certain stage in the awakening. We feel the energy. We know it. Some of us might want to just crawl in a hole. Some of us might want to be in nature all the time. Some of us might not even be able to handle, honestly, being around our families or our friends, and that's kind of part a little bit of I shouldn't even say a little bit of the journey itself, but this feels very big right now. Like you just want to separate away from the collective everything, like the whole 3D thing. So they're really talking about October being like that. Even though there's been this positivity in the last couple channelings of where we're at, okay? But the thing is, we have to, as humans, mentally and physically adjust to all that, and vibrationally. So it's not like we can just be given it all at once and go, boom, here we are, and we step up. No, we're climbing the new timeline mountain. Okay, so I'm just kind of, feels free to comment as well, because obviously it's always fun to hear from everybody else if you're noticing some similarities, if you're noticing something different, or if you know what other people are saying, because that's cool to always hear that too. Okay, so that's one of the things coming through is the weight of the world, Atlas with the world on his back. Let's see, I'm reading a note here. Oh, this is interesting. So if we talk about the collective, excuse me. What was coming through just before I started this is that part of the collective of humankind is in a chokehold. I thought that was really interesting. They're in a chokehold, almost like, okay, they just said time has stood still. I think that's really interesting in and of itself. What do we have to say about that today? Okay, in a chokehold, they just said unwilling. They just said unwilling to release themselves from it. You know, honestly, because think of how much we do to ourselves because of our thought processes and what we've been enculturated with and all that. We think that is real and true. Oh, unwilling to look. Okay. Okay, they're talking about unwilling to open doors to themselves to be able to really examine. They just said examine thought processes and belief systems. Because what's happening right now, they're saying, is a lot of people are being threatened by their thought processes and belief systems, what has created their foundation of safety, of that being pulled away, and therefore they are freezing in time, in fear. It's about, this is interesting, it's about a loss of what they see as their foundation. So it's all rooted in fear. And you know how they just said the word deconstruct, how we deconstruct in this awakening journey? And this is the benefit of being awakened, right? Of going through the awakening process is we know this is part of the process. Yeah, I know there's the journey of coming into understanding that. But we know the deconstruction happens. But for people who aren't awake, they don't understand that. And it is a fear response. So you'll see the anger. You'll see the fight response, fear response, holding on tightly, closing their minds off. And then what that translates to is what they're saying. Oh, this makes so much sense. Oh, I just had a wave of like heart-based emotion go through me. It turns into taking it out on others. In other words, someone else becomes the object of your fear. And because the holding fast I keep getting to beliefs and not willing to, it's a hard and fast hold on the past and no change. No change, no change, no change. And so the fear is there. Okay, so they're in a chokehold because of fear, right? But with us, now, not that it's easy, a lot of us, most of us, I mean, we all have, right, been constructed in many ways by family, friends, culture, institutions, and it's pretty deep. And it depends on where you're at in that journey and the journey you've lived, how difficult that is to come out and how traumatic it can be to let those things go. However, your higher self helps you do that, right, as you journey through this. Versus what's happening in a lot of the chokehold of the collective is they're unwilling to look the other way. Like they're only here, okay? And the fear is keeping them from looking elsewhere. But what's happening is so much light is being brought into the planet that this is interesting. So it actually is agitating the chokehold more, but it has to in order to break through. I have chills on this. To them, to wake them up. Now, we're still, I'm sitting here talking to people, y'all, who are going through the awakening, but we're all different stages of the process. I mean, I don't think we're ever done, right? It's a continual learning process. We always find new revelations and new things that we're holding on to, and you're like, God, is this ever going to be done? Which kind of leads to the exhaustion, right? But just understand it's a part of this journey for the rest of your life. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be traumatic and you're going to be in the dark night of the soul if you're in that now, which we can have multiple, but they're not, you will come out of those, right? But my point in this is that we understand that this is part of the process, which can help us, right? Not go into so much fear, not go into, we may not know what's on the other side, but what we also understand is as we go through this, we start becoming more pure in our understanding of who we are, a greater awareness of the opportunity for the kind of life we can live as an individual and as a collective And again, like I say, this is a patience process. So in October, this is what's happening. We are, part of the collective is in a chokehold. Think about that, because remember, this is collective energy update. But we're carrying the weight of the world. And it's almost going to feel, or it can, to some of us, heavy. And you might not be able to identify it. It might just be like a feeling of, I'm just sick of people. I mean, that's one potential. I'm just tired of people. Or you're getting so irritated, right? Or you're getting super judgmental again. And that's a journey, right? Or you're tired of this process, or you just can't handle what is so in your face with kind of modern culture. Those are just examples of things that might occur. You'll have your own things potentially. I did also get just now the words a turning point, which just makes sense. So I just got huge chills. Okay, they just said as we're moving into the turn of the year, that's interesting, they called it the turn of the year, a turning point. Oh, into the turn of the year. That's interesting. So they're showing October, they always show me a calendar in my head, October through the end of December. Okay, you know the timeline split? Remember, it's always metaphor and it's strange to try to figure out. It's just the way this whole journey is. We know how the universe speaks as we start doing this, right? Patterns, synchronicity, metaphors, riddles, all of that. There's probably some law that they can only give us so much, right? But what I'm seeing is this big split. Oh, I got chills. October's this big, like, consciousness split, and it's going to feel almost whatever part of the collective you're in, which, of course, obviously this audience, you guys are going through the awakening journey or starting to feel something's up, so you found me on YouTube, which I would then say, if you're here, keep listening because you're here for a reason, right? But they're showing this fork in the road, which is the timeline shift. But what's happened is that opened up in September. So as we move through October, the split's going this way. Okay. So there's a greater sense of more of a dramatic feeling, I'll say, accentuated feeling. I'll give you just an example, a made up example that could happen. On those who, for those who are in the chokehold, they could be driven down deeper into that more accentuated extremeness of fear. And we know what happens when fear comes up, okay? But also there are going to be a lot of people in there that are going to start to see. But it's going to, if the energy feels like it's accentuated. So we got big energy on both sides. The other big energy on our side is we have more light coming in, right? We're open to more light. But at the same time, we can feel the weight of the collective because part of our journey is to, be the one pulling the collective through, the first part of their journey, energetically speaking, which we've done by one of the metaphors is cutting down the initial pathway in the woods or whatever, or making it easier for them. So we do that by opening up energetic gateways so they don't have to plow through like we have. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have their own things they're going to go through, right? Somebody said to me the other day, I just don't understand why we have to go with all the burden and they just get a free pass. I'm like, they don't get a free pass. That's the thing. Nobody gets a free pass. It's whether we're aware or not. Everybody's still going through their own journey in this. But it's just, it's different when you start to understand the process and that this is a divine process that is full of beauty, yeah, and yet so much full of struggle, especially in these times that we're seeing now in 2026. And I don't speak past that really, but just because it kind of doesn't serve any purpose. Okay, so anyway, what we're seeing now through the end of the year is this. I have lots of chills on this conversation today. It's a turning point that leads us to the new year. They're still showing. I've been saying this, and I have no idea what this is, but they show energy, right? Because I read energy. And then it will, when it's meant to, if it is meant to, will form up into words, phrases, channeling, but also pictures. Leading up into a real new start in 2026. Now, when we say new start, we're like, oh, that's good. I don't know. I mean, it's good in the big scheme of things, energetically, spiritually speaking. I don't know what it looks like materially. It could be really difficult. And I don't think it's going to be, an easy ride. But I do get this energy of April. Like I've said, spring. I don't know. Could be May. But this energy is still showing up. And I will update you on all this every month of where that energy resides of I don't know if it's a thing happening or another energy, like maybe our timeline that we are moving to now, because remember, we're moving into that energy. Some of us are there, but it's like migrating birds. They're just showing migrating birds. They don't all migrate at the same time. They're little groups, right? They get to where they need to, plus they take a rest when they go. I used to think the birds would just migrate and they just shoot all the way across down to where they're supposed to be. Until just a few years ago when I realized, no, that's not the case. They kind of hang out in a location, kind of like us. Like we got to spend some time. And so it's like birds migrating. Okay, you can think of that when you get a new timeline, right? Anyway, between now and whatever's April coming in, it might just be an energy that doesn't manifest, but we may also have manifested something that's going to make us more aware, especially those of us awakening. But between now and April, it feels like that's what we're going to be doing, more of a greater split from this timeline, because they keep showing it wider and wider. But October is this turning point where this is starting to happen, and you're going to notice this. Always remember that you're still on your own journey. So regardless of what we talk about in the collective, yes, you're part of the collective, but how you invigorate your own journey by, doing the things that help us along. I'm just going to name a few things. Meditation, journaling, getting out in nature, taking care of the body, the vessel that's yours, changing up things that you've done to yourself that you don't like doing anymore. Making choices as to what serves you, that's kind of in general, right? Versus what it doesn't serve you. Really looking at that, what feels right anymore. All that stuff we talk about all the time is still going to continue. You're continuing to elevate all the time. Now, yeah, you can step back and just choose not to do anything. Or you can choose to fall into the, those who are in a chokehold. Right? I mean, we have choices. We can do that. Now, your higher self will come in and really give you the dickens for it. Won't be pretty, I'm sure. But at the same time, yeah, frankly, I could, if I want, I guess, I could just shut all this down, never do another YouTube video, stop my business, but go back to 3D work in that sense, in the jobs that I had before. But then the question is, can you really? Can you really? Can you really, once you took the pill, what we talk about, won't it still be there poking at you? And won't you just still be irritated? And even if you try to, re-enter is what I'll say. But what we are doing, I will say this is a time too where as we, as awakening people, are going through this turning point time in October through this rest of this year, we also are taking this higher divine light and shift and change. And in many ways, I don't want to say reintegrating, because some of us have never completely separated, which we're not meant to, right? In general, most of us, we're meant to be like this. Okay, so this is 3D, again, 3D, 5D, whatever, however you want to explain higher vibration or ascension. We're like this because we gotta still be rooted in the material world in that sense, like earth-based world, right? We're still here. We're still in that time. So we're connected in, maybe very loosely. Sometimes we just step out fully. I don't know what that would look like. I kind of got close to that, but still I had to go buy groceries. I still had money, kind of thing. It's like that blank slate thing. But then as you re-enter into society, you find your way that feels right for you, if that makes sense. And all of us, to one degree or another, feel that. Many of us still have the same jobs we've had, right? Which is great, but we find other things that are also for us as we move forward. So anyway, my point in this is, as we move forward in this journey, we also are going to find this connection. If that's part of this process, is when we go through spiritual awakening, we do this separation out, right? To one degree or another. And you guys know what that feels like and what that means. We like isolation period, and that comes and goes too. But then we do the re-entry. There is a re-entry. Some of us will full on re-entry. Some of us will re-entry like this, and it's all meant to be. So we got a big turning point coming up here. We've got the weight of the world that we're carrying, which means take care of yourself. Be very aware of the energies around you. Do your self-care, your energy work, all of that. The things we talk about. I do believe, I will tell you this more and more, as we go into this higher way of living and being, we're in the struggle, on the struggle bus right now, collectively. So the energies of wanting to keep us there, right, are strong. So one thing I highly recommend, if you're not doing it now, I don't care who you are, what you're doing, energy work of some kind. Maybe it's acupuncture, maybe it's shiatsu massage, maybe it's hopefully some kind of energy healing with a practitioner that you like. And you're working your field too. You're doing your own clearing work. But I've said this before, and I am dead on serious about this. It's one thing to clear your own energy, but I think it's really important to have an energy healer you can work with regularly, and you have to decide what's regular. I work with mine. I actually have two, and it's because of the work I do, but two of them that I work with, one monthly, one every 2 weeks. You find somebody that helps you clear your energy, because the more you work with that individual and you're connected to them, the more you're going to feel that happening. It's really important, because we're light. We're light. We are light bodies. We are coming into more of our light body through this process. So we shine more. So what you want to be aware of is how you feel each day, are you being sucked from your solar plexus with a cord from someone, or, all those things, right? So what I would say to you is really, make sure you're cleaning up your spiritual hygiene, I'll just say. You really got that in place, and, being able to shore that up. So what we've got here for this month is the continuation of this energy, because they're very much showing this, that collective timeline that we shifted to, or the whole rainbow conversation I had with you recently, the weight of the world, this collective timeline shift getting wider, okay, the split. And this really feels like old Earth, new Earth. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, well, I do in what they tell me, okay, in that the shrapnel's here, we're here, shrapnel's here in 3D. Some people are getting slammed, banged, boom, whatever. And some of the shrapnel will show up here a little bit, but we kind of move through it. We're part of the collective, right? But it's what we pay attention to. It's what we give our energy to. It's all of that as to what we experience most of the time. Now, we do have our own journey, obviously, of the things that we need to work on within our own journey. So those will show up when they're meant to. And so at this point, what we're seeing is this kind of the acclimation to the split for both groups. And remember, there's all those people in between too. So both groups, and it's being accentuated. So there's more light for us. There's more, but there's also the greater maybe burden we feel. When you feel that, but it also is greater light too. Some of you are also going to feel that time like, wow. I mean, maybe you had an amazing eclipse season, which can really happen, because usually it's like the upside down, or things get turned upside down. If you remember, I had mentioned what is I don't remember if this was the September energy update. I think what has been unseen will be seen, and I think that's unfolding, to tell you the truth, after the events in September. So it's kind of interesting. So anyway, I don't think there's anything else I want to cover at this point. I want you to know, though, that for October, let's just do a little bit more. October feels more like this integration, very much so. A continuation of what, because September was big energetically, particularly the first half. It was almost like little bomblets got dropped. Actually, big bomblets got dropped, right? And I don't keep up with the news, so you guys will know the things that occurred out there. I do know some of the, however, whatever you're supposed to know, believe me, you'll know, right? So I know some of the big things, but not much. But I do, and this is not just the United States. Please understand this. We all have our own stuff going on, but we're all affecting each other more so now than ever in some of these decisions that are being made. And things that are actually going into effect now, that are breaking down further our institutions and belief systems, which is interesting. What I would say to you, this is the time, if you have a knowing and feeling of what, kind of like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do, this is the time to start. This is the time to start. Doesn't mean you have to go blank slate now and quit your job and leave your family or whatever, or go be a monk. What is that thing that you want to create, right? Where is it? This is the time to do it in. Because what I keep getting is, as we pull that out, we're in a new timeline. That's going to be able to go with us. So again, the what is it is, it might be, okay, I'll use how you're going to raise your children. I don't know. I'm making that up, right? Because unfortunately, parenthood is kind of not seen as an important thing. So, although it's incredibly important because you're raising little star seeds, many of you. But anyway, my point is maybe that's what it is. It's like, I'm changing my parenting, or I'm going to incorporate this, or whatever it is. All the way to, and this is not on saying parenthood is not respected, because it's the most important thing that we're going to be doing with our little ones. And then there's the other of like, I'm going out into the world, and I'm going to create something massive, and the whole world will know it, kind of thing, right? There are people creating big businesses that have a effect, because we have to have both. We have to have the collective institutional shift and change, right? From within the older structures too, right? There are people within these old institutions that are rebuilding. They're rebuilding, okay? But we also need it individually in our families and in our journey individually, in the day-to-day work we do with other people in our neighborhoods. And I still say, they told me this some time ago, this is all about, we're going to help each other. We have got to help each other. That's where it's coming from, grassroots. It's, if you walk away with anything, know that it's the visual they've always given me from quite some time ago. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Do you remember the Village People when the Grinch took everything and was just being all nasty and that? They were singing, and they were arm in arm, and they were so happy. They were happy they had each other in their village, and they were helping each other. They were grateful for what they had. So it's that whole thing. I still believe it's this whole idea of us at the grassroots, our neighbors, our families, our friends, people we're joining in general humanity. We're going to create the new world in the ways that we see. It's not going to be top down. I don't care what anybody says. Maybe the little bomblets will be thrown on things to initiate that, but it's coming from us. It's coming from us. Those like-minded, connected, divine spark in us. That's our commonality. And we start learning that, we start waking up to that, that's when all this shift and change is going to happen. So anyway, needless to say, I hope this is helpful to you today. If you can help out and you liked this video, share it with somebody that might be able to help, or might be able to be helped from it, and or subscribe. That would be really helpful, because I think the more of us who are doing this work online can get out to others and have that opportunity for them to see this, there's something in there that can spark a greater awareness, greater awakening. So again, I thank you for being here today. I love hearing your comments, and I appreciate you always coming back. So again, hopefully you took something away from the October energy update, and I will see you in the next video.